this is Surya Saha, and welcome to the Insurtech Story Podcast, a platform to spread knowledge on insurance innovation, digital disruptions, and entrepreneurship. Our website, insurtechstory.com, and we are available on Spotify, Apple, and Google. Today, we are going to discuss on the topic the changing face of health insurance distribution in India. And to talk about the same, we are delighted to welcome our guest, Ruchir Kanakia, who is the co-founder and CEO of OneAssure. Prior to OneAssure, Ruchir co-founded GoPlanner. From the academic side, he has graduated from Sardar Patel Institute of Technology, University of Mumbai. Ruchir, welcome on board, and we are truly excited to have you for the show.
Thanks, Surya, for inviting me. Happy to be here.
Would you like to tell a bit on OneAssure, like what motivated you to start the company, this initiative? What gaps have you seen in the market?
Okay, OneAssure effectively is a health insurance platform which helps you sell and service any health insurance product today, right?
Right. Yeah.
And to figure out what motivated me, how I decided to build OneAssure, let's go back to why I decided to start the company.
Right.
And my motivations behind them will basically sort of lead to why the company happened to be OneAssure, effectively.
Hmm.
So for me, I come from a traditional Gujarati family who ran businesses in Bombay for almost 3 decades. And when I graduated after my engineering, I always had this in mind that technology will play a huge role in our lives.
Right.
So I spent the better part of my career working for startups like Exotel, Instamojo, QMath, and in most of these startups, I worked with founders and learned from them firsthand, and joined them at those stages where I could apply those learnings when I was building my own business. So
Right.
that's after QMath, I decided to start GoPlanner, and one of the things which came naturally to me is I saw that whenever there is an underpenetrated market, uh, uh, that's an opportunity in my head, right? And
Yep.
insurance was at that cusp in 2018, December, January 19 is when I started GoPlanner, which was effectively selling software solutions to insurance companies as a product.
Right.
And that business eventually pivoted and morphed into OneAssure.
Right.
So that's roughly the story. And I realized very early in my career that selling to large companies would not make OneAssure a large business, purely because there are only 50 insurers in the country, and even if I
Yep.
make all of them my customers, the I'll have to go global to scale that business.
True.
So that was a point when we decided to build OneAssure, and it came with a couple of unique consumer insights, right? One thing was that we as an economy are service driven, and we
Yeah.
love to pay for service, and we've still not gotten around paying for product, right? We've started to pay for software products, but we still don't like aggressively pay for it, right?
Yeah.
And I guess a lot of this goes back to having labor accessible to you at a cheaper rate, right? And that is the reason why we would rather pay someone to do our work than actually pay for a product which enables or simplifies or makes our life easy, right? To do it ourselves.
True. You know, of course, as you mentioned, the one of the gap that is always prevailing in the insurance sector is the penetration rate, and that's I think that would actually make it the right time to be in the industry in this country. Uh, you know, moving on to some of the points to bring forth today. How do you see health insurance in India transforming to benefit the missing middle? Is there any significant trend that tells a story towards this transformation?
Actually, yes. So most of us, right, like as Indians, Surya, think that insurance is an expense. Now, LIC has done a beautiful job of getting most of us with some sort of life insurance product, which is morphed as investment, and it's less of insurance and more of investment. But health insurance has not penetrated enough for multiple reasons, right? One thing is we view insurance as an expense because I'm paying something out, but I'm getting nothing in return,
Right.
right? And the mindset should be that, boss, if I'm paying a health insurance premium, I don't want anything in return because if I have to get something in return, I'll have to go get hospitalized to derive
Right.
value, right? And none of
Right.
us want to get
Yeah.
hospitalized. That's one. The second thing is that can do I have enough money to take care of my basic needs that I can invest in health insurance? One's the mindset that it's an
Hmm.
expense. Second is that do I have the money to allocate this budget to spend on health insurance, even once I realize it's important.
Yeah.
So these two, I guess, are the major factors which I guess over the next 5 to 7 years will play out, where the mindset change has slowly happened because we saw pandemic and we saw how the cost spiraled out of, and then you have to dip into your savings or you fall into a debt trap to pay for your medical expenses in those times.
Yeah.
The second part is when the country, India as a country, will grow and when our middle class, the per capita income will increase. I guess it'll automatically by then people will know that they need to invest in it, and
Yeah.
it'll be considered like any other expense which we make every month,
Yeah. I think.
synonymous to like a rent of the house which you stay in,
Yeah.
which you pay for.
I think at present the this kind of products in insurance are primarily considered as a tax saving tool rather
Yes,
than a risk mitigation tool. So, but I
yes,
believe, of course, technology will help grow the awareness as well as uh, the industry will leverage technology to benefit the end users, and that's how the belief, the trust, and the education uh, among the youth, especially, would increase on
I agree with
especially
you on
health
that.
insurance. Moving on to our next point, Indian insurance distribution market is complicated, and distribution is one of the critical aspect of the value chain in any insurance segment. If you look at, be it life or non-life, so how do you see health insurers preparing for the next distribution model to reduce the gap that exists between consumers and insurers, especially from an Indian context?
Uh, so from an Indian context, if you seen the people who underwrite or build products, right, hasn't changed in the last decade that much,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I see that changing in the next 3 to 5 years. So
right,
you will have more people who will build products who will not have to rely on the baggage of the last 10 years and will try to innovate to enable what the customer wants, right?
right,
And that is yet to happen. Now, looking at these new players, I'm assuming these incumbents will also come up with these products, thereby benefiting the consumer, which is the customer at the end of the day. I see the new age insurers not opening branches or as many branches as a HDFC Ergo or a Lombard would have opened. They will now want to be lean. They will want to drive digital distribution rather than physical, tied face to face distribution. That transformation is already happening, Surya, today.
right. Yeah. I
Also,
mean,
the
it's a valid
concept
point you
where,
mentioned on the underwriting. I think, yeah, that would certainly bring in some sort of an impact on this. Yeah,
yeah,
please go ahead.
and we will also see that a lot of times we will start embedding insurance in our daily lives, right?
Yeah,
Where you will be like you do something, maybe you go for an adventure sport ride, and your ticket price already includes any mishap that can happen due to the adventure sport,
right.
right? Those small micro products will
Yeah,
at least bring about some awareness,
I
but
think,
the mainstream health insurance distribution, which is the retail health insurance, will pick up only when the cost of hospitalization becomes unaffordable for common masses like you and
right.
me.
So you mentioned about embedded insurance. So I think it's going to be the future of insurance distribution all throughout the world, not just in India, and how technology is actually bringing that change, that it's going to be embedded with everything we do. I mean, that's how we are going, the access level of insurance and the human reach would join in together, right? So
Agree with you, but I guess it's not that straightforward, right? Like
absolutely,
when you
it's
embed
not.
insurance,
It's not.
you
Yeah.
are embedding literally micro insurance products.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the bigger, like the retail insurance, which is typically a product which costs at least 150 $200 or 10,000 to 15,000 rupees in India,
Yeah.
is still is a huge chunk of money you're investing towards something which you not do will not buy immediately. So you will do your own research, and it's going to be far more consultative as a sale, right? Hence, you will have to build tools which makes the end user realize and
Yeah.
help him clarify his doubts,
Yeah.
and that's where the technology will play a large role.
True. I think the end user might not even understand that
Yeah,
much
or the
or won't.
distributor
Yeah.
would have to use those tools to basically,
True.
because the customer today wants transparency.
Yeah.
He's realized that everyone's out to get him, right? Like, because there are so many people or experiences in India where, like, in the US or in Europe, you can think about suing someone, and there is the judiciary over there is in a state where you're able to get some sort of resolution to your dispute. In
Yeah.
India, that is impossible. Hence, even people are more going to be conscious, and they have to rely on this intermediary, and he has to ensure that he doesn't break their trust.
True. Moving on to our last point for the day. You mentioned about agents or rather middlemen. So, agents are the oldest channel of health insurance sales in India, as we know it. So, the physical accessibility of the person, gives the added credibility and ease of communication, particularly to the end consumers. So, do you see this changing with the invent of digital in insurance? I'm sure. I mean, you just mentioned about certain, aspects of how an agents can actually be a benefit, but how do you see if there's sort of a changes that may come perhaps with the uh, you know coming of digital in insurance?
So, I guess, Surya, we'll have to reinvent the whole agent wheel, right? Like, I'm not saying that replace them, but enable them. The smart way
True.
to think about this
Yeah, I
is,
think
right?
I think yeah, I think
And
it's a well put one. Yeah.
so the smart way is that equip them with what do you say, tools which help him or her sell effectively in front of their customers, right? And see, earlier, let's look back 10, 15, 20 years, right? Face to a name always brings credibility, especially my parents, right?
Yeah.
If my parents were to buy something, they would insist that someone come meet them and greet them, and that's the old way of doing things. But
Yeah.
I don't expect someone to come and meet me, right? And that change has already started happening, right? And so does my peers don't expect people to meet them. As long as they have a face, they verify everything, they want to go and check the person's LinkedIn profile, want to do some research on the plans he's recommended.
Hmm.
So the idea is that as long as someone goes ahead and is digitally enabled and is able to use those tools and is able to transparently sell to the end customer, it is actually cost effective in the for the customer also and for the agent also, if you think about it.
Yeah.
So that's where I see this changing, right? So you will see agents having to have LinkedIn profiles, and being active and contributing. You will see agents who will have to who will have to build a community where they are supporting each other and use tools and technology to their advantage in order to grow their business in future.
True. Yeah. So, there you mentioned about how you can equip the middlemen or the brokers. So there are various, particularly sales management tools available to for the brokers or the middlemen to leverage. But do you really see any sort of a changes happening that is bringing the insurers and the middlemen closer to actually solve this distribution complexity?
Yeah, so actually, I don't think so. Insurers are the right people to do this, right? Like, I was
Right.
just chatting with a couple of people who want to open their own insurance company at some point in time, and who
Right.
are in the application process. And their viewpoint is that they will not invest in tied distribution. They would rather invest in broking, which or people who can bring multiple companies on a and who thereby reduce their cost, because then the question is that you don't distribute on the basis of the number of agents you have. You distribute on the basis of how good your product is based on the underwriting guidelines and the features you offer, and
Yeah.
how quickly can you service claims. And I guess the first 20 years or the last 20 years went in, the company who has the largest network would generate the most sales. I guess in the next 20 years we'll see that it's everyone will sell every other company's products, and the product which is designed and which is more consumer friendly, and the company who delivers a better claims experience, will
Hmm.
sort of translate into more dollars or revenues or higher NPS,
Right. Right.
right? So that is a big change, right? So you wouldn't like typically now it's a question, the entire thing where the agent would tell you to buy a company and a product because he's saying, and you would trust him, and then he would get the work done, will change to consumers relying on insurers to build better products for them and deliver a better claims experience, and where the agent is a facilitator of sorts,
Hmm.
if I were to be very honest, and
Yeah.
not the
Yeah.
guy driving the sales effectively, because consumers are becoming more and more so everything you search something, you Google something, you search for a video on YouTube for a health insurance plan, and you will see 10, 20, 30 videos,
Right.
right? And hence information is no more your tool or weapon in arsenal here.
Hmm.
So that's where I'm coming from.
Right. I was just looking at one issuer's model and your website. So I'm very curious to understand, how exactly your embedded insurance model works, where you actually invite partners to actually help them to bring in embedded insurance, programs. Is
Simply put, right, like we anything which is adjacent to where you or place where you would think about buying health insurance, like let's take an example, like a wealth manager is a classic customer of ours, right? We
Hmm.
give them one API which allows them to distribute a product to their end customer,
Right.
which is basically someone whose wealth they are managing today. Now they are unlikely, and if you are managing someone's wealth, then you have a dashboard which you're showing your customer, showing some returns where you've invested their money, the split of the assets and everything. And insurance forms the protection layer where we talk about health and term insurance specifically. We're solving for health today, and we give them one API which connects products across 10 insurance companies, along with a recommendation engine where you can transparently compare all these products and facilitate a buy and then service during claims as well.
Right. Right.
So now, if you're a wealth manager or you're a health tech company and you need to basically sell insurance to to your customers, you have to get a license. Then you have to build your infrastructure. Then you have to get that infrastructure licensed as well, and then start integrating with various providers. We solve all of that and claims for them.
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting. So, I mean, of course, being one of the young ones in the industry and the remarkable work that you guys are doing, the list of, the type of product lines and your investors lineup, it's an amazing journey, and I just wish you guys all the very best. And India, I mean, insurance in India, it's getting interesting day by day.
Agree with you, Surya. I guess only time will tell, and let's hope that all
Absolutely.
of us grow together.
Absolutely, absolutely. And thank you, Richie. A fantastic
Thanks.
discussion, fantastic thought, and thank you for your time today. It was a true delight to have you as our guest.
Thanks, Surya. I hope this information is useful and relevant for your viewers, and I
Uh,
hope we
It,
added some
it
value in
is,
their
it is, it
lives
is.
today.
Health insurance and especially insurance awareness is something is a need of the hour. Yeah. So,
Thanks,
lastly, to
Surya.
wrap this up, thank you for listening and see you at our next episode. Take care and stay safe. Goodbye for now.